Yo, what's going on, everybody? This is Between the Game Sports back again, and this time we're out in Silver City, New Mexico, I believe,
Mhm.
with Coach Zane Gibson at Western New Mexico University. What's going on, Coach?
So I'm just enjoying life, man. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah,
I've been looking forward to this for a couple weeks now.
yeah. I think I contacted you about maybe a month ago,
Hmm.
and we kind of worked some things out, and then now here we are. So, we're gonna jump right into it. Tell the people a little bit about yourself and how you got into coaching and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm born and raised in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I was brought up in a coach's household. My dad was a player. Actually played with Gerald Wilkins at UTC,
Oh wow.
who's the brother of Dominique, and then was an assistant coach there when I was growing up, and then transitioned into the high school ranks when I got a little bit older. So I was born and raised there in a coach's household. Then obviously my basketball career started as a player, playing for Coach Davis up at Middle Tennessee State University, and that's kind of where I got my first break. He asked me to be his graduate assistant, and that was my first job as a coach in this business.
Okay, so you played at, excuse me, you played at Middle Tennessee State University. How was that experience overall for you?
No, it was awesome. To this day, Coach and I are extremely close. I was very fortunate. I didn't understand it at the time, but when I came in, I redshirted as a freshman. And
Hmm.
today's game, in today's world, with the generation, is guys want to come in and play instantly, get right
Hmm.
after it. Uh, and I just didn't do that. I was 160 pounds soaking wet in Conference USA. It was Sunbelt at the time. We transitioned to Conference USA 2 years later,
Hmm.
and I just wasn't ready to play. I just was not ready to play. So I redshirted, and it taught me patience, taught me how to work, taught me the process of what it takes to be a really good player and teammate. And I was fortunate enough that in my 5 years as a player, we won 4 league championships.
Hmm.
Now, obviously, I was a very small piece of that. I played with a ton of guys that are still playing. A couple of them are in the TBT deal right now,
Hmm.
and so had some really good players around me. But the experience was awesome. I loved Coach because he was hard on us, but he was very fair.
Hmm.
Um, and that's something that I try to do as a coach myself now. Is I really truly believe guys. People talk about they don't want to be coached and they're not as tough. I don't believe that. I believe guys still want to be coached and have that toughness, but they just want fairness out of it. It used to be 20, 30 years ago, coaches were, not being necessarily fair to young men. And that's why, that's the new generation. They just want people to be fair. And coach was very fair to us. He's very honest, very hard on us, but I truly enjoyed my experience as a player, and I'm truly grateful to him giving me an opportunity to start my coaching career with him.
Got it. So his name is Coach Kermit Davis, I believe.
That's correct.
Um, you guys, you guys won the Conference USA in 2015, 2016, I think, and then you went to the NCAA tournament as a 15 seed, and I believe you guys upset Michigan State that year. Just kind of tell people about that experience, like going from that conference championship game all the way up until that game with Michigan State.
Yeah, my class finished in 2014. That was our
Yeah,
last
okay,
year, and
okay.
so then I was a graduate assistant the next 2 years.
Hmm.
And when my class graduated, we were the winningest class in the history of Middle Tennessee basketball.
Hmm.
Um, and so Coach kind of had to start over a little bit. And I was with him. It was my first year as a coach when we brought in Reggie Upshaw, Yiddy Potts, Karen Buford, Darnell Harris, uh,
Hmm.
Jaquan Raymond. All would later become household names because of that Michigan State game. But it was showing me how you have to build your team, build the program, and what guys got to go through and the struggle until they reach the mountaintop. The target was squarely on our back because for 4 of the 5 years we had dominated. And
Hmm.
so that first year before the Michigan State year, we struggled. We were 19 and 17. We did make the CIT and played Kent State in the first round there, but just not the same year. We had won 28, 27, 28 games like the previous 3 years, and just not the same success. And so, obviously, flipping from player to coach, it changed the dynamics of things as far as how the day-to-day works. And so the following year, not a whole lot was expected again. They kind of had written off these guys, and those guys just kept working and working and working. Got into the conference tournament as the 2 seed. Made a run, beat Old Dominion by 2 in the conference tournament, the Conference USA tournament. And then Michigan State, that year they have Denzel Valentine. They got the big kid, I can't remember his name. Was a draft Davis, was a draft pick as well.
Mm-hmm.
They were, in all intents and purposes, a number 1 seed. Before the tournament comes out, we think they're a 1 seed. We think we're a 14 or a 13. We were 25 and like 9. We had a good year and a good league, and both of us kind of went the other direction. We got dropped to a 15, and they got dropped to a 2. And so, everybody in Murfreesboro is sitting there thinking, "Oh my gosh, we're playing Michigan State." I mean, they're one of the picks, the trendy picks to win the whole deal. I think we were the biggest underdog from the Vegas betting money line in the history of the NCAA tournament. Ended up winning, but Coach just talked about as soon as it came out, he said, "We're going to win the game." And Coach said us that. We brought us in. We had a viewing party in our Hall of Fame. We went to the locker room, so we're going to win the game. And we're going to win the game because we're as good as them, and we're going to prepare. We're going to have the right mindset for the next 6 days because we played them on a Friday, and it was Sunday. Then they are. They're going to be upset about their 2 seed, not a 1 seed, and we're going to let this 15 go by. Even though we should have been 13 and 14, we're going to get right to business and figure out how we can win the game. And so all week long, it was all about we're going to win the game. There was never we're happy to be there. Great season. Now we're going to go play Michigan State. They're going to go win a national championship. It was we're going to win the game, and we went in with the mindset of doing it. And it was a total team effort. We had guys step up off the bench that it's one of those magical things. It is March Madness is truly one of the greatest sporting events, and it has that word, that term for a reason. And we had guys, freshmen who maybe didn't play, like a Carl Gamble came in and had a couple tip-ins before the end of the first half. We shot like 54% from the floor. Everything was going in. Denzel Valentine was, I think he might have been the player of the year, the runner-up player of the year in the country. Had turnovers. He didn't have more than like 3 or 4 the whole rest of the year for any other game. And so a lot of things went really, really well for us, and it was just, I'm telling you, Will, I still remember it like it was yesterday, just being on SportsCenter and ESPN for the next 24 hours because you were upset. It was truly a magical moment and one I'll never forget.
Yeah. Well, congratulations to you guys. And then you mentioned about Coach Davis being fair and then jumping right into once you got the seedings and he told you guys you're going to win the game. What did you take from that experience over to where you're coaching at now, from not just coaching, but when you were playing?
Yeah, I truly believe in this business. You learn from every experience if you're trying to get better. And that's something I talk to our guys about virtually, obviously, right now. Every time we talk is trying to get better and learning from everything. I was fortunate enough to be with him, and then I worked for Coach Newman the past 4 years at Arkansas, Fort Smith, and at Texas Permian Basin, and learned from him. And I just think you learn from every situation. And the things that I will take from Coach Davis is that nothing replaces toughness and work ethic. And he really, really beat that into us every day. He was talking about, guys, if we are the toughest team on the floor every day and we work the hardest every day, then we're going to give ourselves a chance. Talent level is whatever. If we have the mindset that every loose ball is ours, every rebound is ours, we're going to hit somebody on every box out, and then we're going to outwork them. We're going to put the time in the film room. We're going to put the time in shooting extra balls after practice. We're going to put the time in the weight room that good things will happen to us. And so right now, obviously just getting out here to Western New Mexico and formulating my team, I tell them all the time, guys, more so than any other year, individual guys at home are going to make or break our season. I said, we can't do workouts, can't get you in the weight room. I can't instruct you really on anything. We can have Zoom calls to check in, and that's about it. So who really wants it who really wants to take their game to the next level, who has goals and aspirations, are the guys that are going to come back whenever this thing is over. Whether it's a month, 2 months, whatever the season is, what our administrators decide. Those guys are going to have fantastic years, and more so, like I said, than any other time, it's because the individual inside wanted it. And so that's exciting. You're really going to be able to tell about guys when they show up on campus what they did this summer. Where are they at physically and mentally, preparing themselves for the year, because as coaches we can't do it like we normally do.
Yeah, I know that when you're working out by yourself, like from my experience in my playing days, it was it was absolutely tough. Excuse the background, but it was absolutely tough. No matter how hard you think you're working by yourself, it's not the same when you're working with your coaches or your strength and conditioning coach. Just like you said, the guys that are working out now, it's going to make or break you guys' season. And you said that you spent a couple of years at Arkansas Fort Smith, and then you was at UT Permian Basin, and now you're at Western New Mexico University. For those that don't know or never heard of it, just kind of give it a quick background or layout to Western New Mexico University.
Yeah, it's in a small town in Silver City, New Mexico. It's beautiful. It really is. It's in the mountains. It's in the Lone Star Conference, and so obviously that's got a really good name. We're in the same league as Dallas Baptist, Texas A&M Commerce, Texas A&M Kingsville, West Texas, UTPB, where I just came from. A lot of Texas. It's a very Texas-based league. St. Edward, St. Mary's, Midwestern State. But we're a Division II school in the Lone Star Conference, and obviously we're in the western side of New Mexico in Silver City. A lot of exciting things are happening out here right now. Our athletic director and our president are 2 feet in on athletics right now and trying to make it as good of a spot as can possibly be. There's some things I can't talk about yet that are in the works that are going to be really exciting when we release them about the university. And so it's a really good place. People are wonderful out here. They care about basketball. Back in their heyday, they beat UCLA and Michigan State and New Mexico before there were divisions in the 50s. And so people today in the town still talk about it. And that's the first thing that people have said to me when I got out here is, Coach, did you know we beat UCLA with John Wooden? And I said, no, I didn't know that. Coach, did you know we beat Michigan State? No, I didn't know that. I said, well, they always talk about, well, that's where we want to get back. And I said, no, that's my goal too. Our goal is to take this thing and just go straight up and make this a very proud city of their university and their men's basketball team.
Okay. Me personally, I've never heard of Western New Mexico, but I've heard of St. Mary's and Dallas Baptist and stuff like that. So how are it's your first year, I guess you can't really ask you that, but by guessing, I guess you can say, how do you think the road trips will work out? That's a long journey for any team. And you guys are in the western part of New Mexico, you said. So
No, so great question. Obviously, being at Fort Smith and then at Texas Permian Basin, I have a lot of familiarity with Western New Mexico because we're all in the same league. And I obviously have a really good relationship with our associate AD, Matt Enriquez, who used to be the head coach here a couple of years ago when he moved into the administrative role. And they are the long road trips. And obviously we're in charter buses, but long is long. I mean, you can't, being in a bus for a long time is a long time. And obviously we'll fly some areas that are really long. But I just think it's something that one really good thing about young men and obviously for other sports, volleyball, women's basketball, and women, is they adapt. I really think they adapt well. And the bus trips might be harder on me than them because, they'll go to sleep. They'll play games back there. With the buses nowadays with TVs and the charging ports, they'll keep their phones on and watch movies and stuff like that. So they are long. It's something we have to prepare for, obviously, as far as when we're going to leave to go to certain places. The biggest factor that, I don't like is obviously that it can take away from maybe an additional day of school here and there. But we have to plan accordingly to make sure they have their schoolwork and everything in hand, being proactive about those things. But no, there are some long bus trips. But on the flip side, it is a very big advantage for our home games because they got to come to us too. And whereas we're used to it because we're going to do it more times, it could be the one trip out of the year where somebody's coming 11 or 12 hours to us, and it could put a strain on them, and it can make things hard for them when they get out here. And so I always try to look at it both directions, and I think it could be a serious advantage for us at home, particularly with the thought that they could move games to Fridays, Saturdays this year to try to help with some COVID relief stuff, and that could be a serious advantage if teams are having to travel long distances to get us after they just played a Friday night game.
Absolutely. I remember those long road trips, and again, the buses are not as good as it was when I played. But I remember we had to take our books all the time when we were going to miss class. And, some guys just can't adapt to that. And, that goes into the type of kids that you recruit and stuff like that. So now that you're being a head coach, what type of players and kids are you looking for when you're trying to recruit?
Yeah, it's a great question because everybody kind of has a different philosophy. And the one thing about myself is I really try to study not only just film and game tape, but I really try to study the programs that have been really successful at our level and in our league. And the best team in our league over the last 3 or 4 years has been West Texas A&M. And so I really try to figure out what's their secret. Now, obviously, they have really good players, okay? It's not like they don't have good players. They have really good players. But the secret to them is that they've got guys who are 110% bought into the team. And so that's really important to me. I know guys talk about it all the time, and it's probably the most overused word in athletics, but culture. What's culture? And who can fit to the culture and make the culture even better? And so from a personality standpoint, from a non-basketball related, what are you looking for in recruits? I'm looking for guys who value hard work. I'm looking for guys who have a burning desire of competition in them because I believe that will make them achieve the goals they want. Guys who are not competitive guys who surrender when things get hard, I don't want them on my team. And again, neither of those things have anything to do with talent. That is all internal. And so I really believe when you're recruiting, you've got to try to examine a young man's heart and what interior motives they have. And so that's what I really try to do. I try to spend a lot of time with them, their parents, their coaches, and really ask questions to try to get to know the inside of the individual. As far as the basketball side of it, I really believe in kind of having guys who are multi-dimensional, very versatile guys. It's so easy nowadays to game plan versus guys who have serious weaknesses. If the guy can't shoot at all, there was one in our league this year. They could not shoot. There's a point guard, couldn't shoot at all. Everybody in the league just sat their point guard in the paint and he clawed. Yeah. And so the guys couldn't drive, couldn't throw the ball to the post. So I really, even my 5-man, I like everybody to be able to shoot it, dribble it, and pass it. So they can do a little bit. Now, does that mean they have to be just elite in all those? No, but just enough to keep the defense honest is what I really, really look for skill-wise. And then I look for transferable traits. This guy is a dynamic, quick ball handler. That'll work in college. This guy's got a big-time shot. That will work in college. You want to try to find things that you think that young man can come in tomorrow. If he got thrown into a practice with us tomorrow, would be able to do. He might not be able to do all of it, but he would be able to do that one trait or that 2 traits. So I try to find transferable attributes and traits skill-wise that I think will work from day one in the college setting. And so those would be the kind of breaking them up. I really try to look at a guy's heart, and then I want to see guys that can kind of do a little bit of everything but have some traits that will absolutely transfer into our game.
Yeah. I was one of those guys. I couldn't shoot in college. I don't know what happened, man. I guess the speed of the game changed for me, but I could not shoot in college, and so I struggled with that. But my niche was playing defense and guarding the best guy. your point guard. I'm always hard on guards because I was a guard. Like, what do you expect out of your point guards? Do you expect them to kind of be an extension of what you're saying, or kind of, I don't know, do their own thing, or what, or just kind of a mix of the two?
No, that's a great question, and I agree with you. I believe that you have to coach your point guard the hardest
Uh-huh.
because he is an extension of you. I gave the reference as simply as location. The point guard is the one who's normally going to be closest to the bench.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is offensively, if you're standing out there, in the coach's box closer to half court, point guard's the closest one to you.
Mm-hmm.
Defensively, if they're picking up and the ball's going away from you, they're the closest one to you. So they
Mm-hmm.
got to communicate to their team what we're doing, what we're in, if we're in a certain defense, if we're in a certain offensive set or just offensive motion. And then they have to be able to communicate that to the team. So just based off of the location alone, you got to be able to coach them. And the other thing, too, is I truly believe your point guard gets you in everything, offensively and defensively. It
Mm-hmm.
gets the tone. I played with a young man named Bruce Massey, who's our starting point guard at middle, who still plays overseas today and has been in the G League. All these other, he couldn't shoot either, so it's funny that I recruited to shoot. I tell my staff, I said, listen, guys, if you can find me a Bruce Massey, all bets are off because that dude's the winner, and he's the point of your defense. If your point guard can really guard the ball, changes the game. If their point guard's in duress, if your point guard can really break down people off the dribble and create, it changes the game. And so in doing so, with the fact that he's going to be on the ball the most and have the ball in his hand the majority of the time, they really have to make coaches' decisions on the floor. And they can't do that unless you coach them extremely hard in practice. So when the game comes, they know what is expected of them. So I 100% agree with you, Coach, that your point guard has to be a special individual. And they got to be able to carry a wide load. If our point guard's got to recognize, hey, Coach Will, he's on fire. I need to get him the ball. I need to find him, create threes for him. Or, Coach Zane, he's a big post guy. I got to get him touches. I can't look him off. If he's open, I got to throw him the ball. And then at the same time, when things break down, I got to be able to get to the rim and finish at the basket or get fouled. And so that point guard has got to play the chess game in his head, whereas some of your guys on the floor are just playing checkers, and that's fine because they can do that at those positions, but your point guard can't. If your point guard is not thinking 1, 2, 3 steps ahead, then you can really struggle. On the same token, if he is, thinking like that, your team can be elevated to far and above levels.
Absolutely. I know that, being a guard is hard, and, every position in basketball is hard, but being a point guard is definitely hard. So you parents and players that are listening, listen to what Coach Gibson is saying about, point guards and the stuff that he said about recruiting and being able to have guys that can do multiple things. So, again, this is your first year at New Mexico, Western New Mexico State. University. What have been the challenges dealing with recruiting this year because of COVID-19?
Yeah, I'm a real big relationship guy. I love meeting young man's families. I love it. I love meeting mom. I love meeting dad. I love meeting grandpa, grandma, uncle, aunt. I'm a huge fan of that. I really believe the reason I've had success recruiting in the past is relationship based, and it's really hard to know anybody if it's just this screen. And I do my very best to convey exactly who I am as a person and my values, and what type of person that their young son is going to be around every single day. But when you sit down on the couch and just talk and really have those one-on-one conversations, those deep conversations, it truly can be special. And so recruiting-wise, the biggest challenge has been being able to form connections. And because it's just hard. It just really is over your phone or Zoom. It's hard to form that intimate relationship that you have with families. And that has been a really challenge. The other thing is young men are hesitant to pull the trigger on something they can't see. Exactly. So it's twofold. One, I can't go into the house and have in-home visits. And then two, the young man is like, Coach, I really love everything you're saying. I love the pictures. I just wish I could see it with my own eyes. And
Mhm.
as I tell them, I do too. I wish you could see it with your own eyes too. But the rules just aren't allowing us to do that. Because I recruit a wide base. I really love recruiting the state of Texas. I think there's a lot of good football players in there. But I'm recruiting Dallas. I'm recruiting Houston. I'm recruiting San Antonio and Austin. Well, all of those are an 8+ hour drive. And
Yeah.
for a young man, I wouldn't say none, but it's hard for a young man to bring himself out here 8 hours, get himself a hotel room because we can't pay for it, and then go back. Whereas in years past, I buy the plane ticket, they fly over, put them in a hotel, we fly back. It's really easy. And so those would be the two biggest challenges with the COVID deal right now is not being able to show kids exactly what we have here and not being able to go and have personal interactions with families so they feel really comfortable with ultimately advising them, because there's going to be a point in every recruiting process where, and I know you went through it, Coach, I went through it, where you sit down and you go, Mom, Dad, what do you think about Coach Gibson? What do you think about Coach Bill? You sat here, we had dinner with him. What do you think? And they're going to either go, I really like Coach Gibson. I really think he's this, or I didn't really get a good feel for Coach.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you can't do that right now. So those are the two biggest struggles, in my opinion. And other coaches can obviously have their own, but in my opinion, the two biggest struggles with dealing with the COVID when it has to do with recruiting.
Yeah, I totally understand that. Being inside of a player's home is just big for coaches overall, and it takes me back to something that I just thought of. You got there March.
Mm-hmm.
You got the rest of New Mexico in March. So right when this stuff hit, so the players that were there, did you have any chance of interaction with them before all of this kind of took place?
Yeah, so I came out here. Our season ended. We had been obviously in the recruit, or they had been recruiting me in interview process in February, late January. I set up a visit. I said, hey, listen, whenever our season's over, conference tournament, I'll drive out. I said that's kind of what I do. I'll drive out the next day. So don't worry about plane ticket, nothing. I'll just drive. It's no problem, and I'll bring my wife. And so I think we played in the conference tournament on Tuesday and we beat. On Thursday, I was out there. It was like March 11th or something like that. Did the interview, all that stuff. They offered me the job. Took a night, accepted it, and then drove back home. And as I'm driving back home, all of a sudden on all the feeds on your phone, the radio is schools are shutting down. Schools are going all online. Schools are doing this. And so obviously I didn't talk to any of the team while I was out here on my interview because I didn't know if I was, one, going to get offered the job or two, accept it. And so I didn't feel it was right to talk to those young men until I was officially on board. And so you're right. It happened like the day the COVID where the curtains came down happened about the day after I accepted the job. It made it difficult because then what I basically did is I had to speed date my players because this. Obviously, there's a lot of transferring in this country nowadays as far as schools, and I had to talk to all of them, and I explained to them who I was and what I was about and what the next year was going to be about and how we were going to be different. And so those were the first guys that I had to recruit. And on my side, I told them, listen, I'm basically going to give you 2 weeks, and we're going to talk every other day until you make a decision. I said, but what's fair to me and my program and you is I need to know you're either in or out because then I know how many spots I got to fill. And I said, it's not wise of you to stick around for 3 months and then try to go transfer because, scholarships that you might have had are gone.
Absolutely.
And so I said, I think it's fair both ways that we communicate almost every other day for 2 weeks. And then you guys let me know what you want to do. And fortunately, I had several guys want to come back. And I'm very happy with the returners that are back. But no, the most face-to-face interaction they've got, Coach, is this. Just like we're doing. I Zoom call them all the time.
Oh, wow.
I FaceTime them. Obviously call them and text them. But this is as much face-to-face interaction as they've got with me because once it happened, every student on campus had to leave. It looked like they got to stay, and then when I got back to Texas to get my stuff, my AD called me and said, hey, listen, I know we wanted to get you out here in a dorm room. you can't come because they're moving everybody out of the dorm. So you got to stay in Texas until you find a permanent place to live out here. And so I really didn't get to speak with them face to face. I'm still very much so looking forward to the first time we get to do that, which is a little unusual to have a head coach for. It'll be about 5 months when I do see him, and you never got to see him face to face. You talked to him several times, but you never seen him face to face. So that'll be very unique, and I'm really excited and looking forward to August when these guys hopefully get to campus.
Yeah, I really hope that the season starts. School, first of all, I really hope that it starts back. But I really hope the season happens for everyone, and you guys included. Let's just talk about some of your philosophy. And there's a question I sent to you earlier. If the players are having a disagreement or whatever it may be, would you rather them handle it internally like a players meeting, or would you rather them have a players meeting with the coach and go from there?
It's a great question. I loved it when you texted it to me earlier. As I mentioned before, I'm a relationship guy. I'm a relationship coach because I truly believe if you have a great relationship with your guys, you can get on them and you can coach them hard, and they still trust and believe in you because they believe you got the best interest in themselves, regardless of the day. And on that Tuesday, I was on Will really hard, but he knows Tuesday evening, Coach still loves him. And so I'm real big on relationships. And so when you brought the question up, obviously it depends on what the actual issue is, but I have into a policy with my guys. And if there's an issue with myself, with a member of our staff, with another player, I want them to feel comfortable enough to come talk to me right now in my office and say what they need to say, and us have a mature conversation about whatever it is. I don't care. I tell the guys all the time, there is nothing off limits. There is nothing that's not worthy of a conversation. I truly believe that. I said, little things, if you let them linger, become big things. So I really just come talk to me. Don't think it's too small. You can't talk to me. Come talk to me. Let's talk about it and let's knock it out, and so it's over and we're good. So if it's an issue that I need to know about, I would love them to come talk to me individually, and then if it's with a teammate, together, and let's handle it. Now, if it's a player to a player deal where they don't have, they don't think it has anything to do with me or there's nothing I can solve, then I want them to be open enough with one another. Again, I really believe any little thing or even a big thing can be resolved with open dialogue. Obviously, and this, Coach, there's a lot of issues in our country right now. And what's sad is a lot of it could start moving in a really positive direction if there was dialogue. But some people don't want to have dialogue. And so I'm a really big proponent of dialogue. If you and I got an issue, Will, and we need to talk. We don't need to just be mad at each other or whatever. We need to talk. If I got an issue with Coach, I need to go talk to Coach. And then we talk about it. And I hope that I'm recruiting mature enough guys that understand that there's going to be some stuff that, yes, when you come talk to me, I'm going to tell you some stuff you're not going to like. But are you mature enough? And that's my job. Am I recruiting mature enough guys to handle it? Okay, he told me. He hit me with it straight. Do I respect it, and am I mature enough to handle it and move forward? And that's goes back to the recruiting piece. But I really believe to solve any issue, the root of any issue, is just having real open dialogue amongst the team.
Yeah, you made excellent points about that. Oh, my back's still hurt, but you made excellent points about just communicating with the players and with the coaches. And every team that I've been around, from high school to college to the AAU teams that I've coached, those players and the teams that I've had that were really good, they were able to discuss and communicate amongst themselves. And then I was brought into the fold later on as a coach. And then even when I played, we were able to discuss stuff amongst ourselves, and then be able to go back with the coach. I think that's a correlation of having a successful team overall, if you can communicate and talk with each other without having any hatred or malice or man, I ain't going to deal with him today or any of that type of stuff. And I just think that's huge overall. And my coaches in college, they were the same type of cats. They were able to like let us figure it out. And then if there was really an issue, they were able to step in and deal with it. So I'm glad that you said that. I'm glad that you feel that way. And let me say this. Do you think that kids don't know how to communicate a lot because they spend a lot of time through text or through Snapchat or through Instagram? That's how they communicate. They don't really have those personal skills, I guess you can say, to hold a decent conversation. Not all kids are like that, but there are a lot that's like that. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think two things. One, to kind of hit on the point you were getting to is, in my opinion, the best teams, and I know this is another overused word, are our families. And families fight. I mean, I love my dad to death. He's one of my best friends. There are definitely some days growing up that I was mad as possibly could be at a person. And same with my brothers and all that. But what families do is they talk about it, and they have real conversations and they move forward. It's a great point you brought up. I tell when we have elite camps, I tell individuals, get off your phones. I say, be present in the moment. I also tell them that if you want to be a really good basketball player, sit when you're watching the game. Don't text, don't snap. Or if you do it minimally. Listen to the broadcasters. I know that obviously Dickie V can be a little bit of a hype guy, but the majority of broadcasters really sit there and talk about the game and talk about right and wrong decisions in a game, and they can really teach you if you'll use it as a reference point to learn. You're right. Not all individuals struggle with communication, but with social media, with their phones and their texting and their Snapchats and their IG messages and their IG stories. I do think that young men sometimes struggle, and not just young men, young ladies too, I'm sure, but obviously I deal with young men. I think that they do struggle sometimes knowing how to communicate with one another. And, the best thing that my coach told me is that I'm not your dad. I'm not trying to be your dad, but it's my job to continue to help you mature as a young man. And I really respected Coach Davis for that, hey, we're going to handle things the right way and handle them appropriately. And so that's my job too, is if somebody is struggling to communicate, to say, hey, listen, go and talk to them like this. I talked to my team the other day that any situation you have, guys, you need to evaluate the situation. How important is it in the process of solving it? Two, what's the tone in which you approach the situation? If you come in like a hornet, they're probably going to come back as a hornet. If you come in with an understanding and a respectful tone and voice and mindset, they're probably going to come back with the same deal. And then things can get solved. And then understand at the end of the day that there's going to be, it's like any good deal, there's compromise. Any good thing that occurs is compromise. And so if there's an issue, understand that your point is probably not going to be 100% right, that there's going to be some on their side. And so I do think that there is a little bit of a struggle, but I think it's our job as coaches to help them learn how to communicate, because this, coach, one day they're going to be in the real world, and we have failed them if we have not taught them how to communicate and problem solve correctly. We really have. And I don't want to make it sound like I'm talking like they're little kids, because they're not.
No, I get it.
But they can always get better to where they can be successful in the world. And that's what I want. I tell every young man I recruit, I tell you, if in 10 years, 15 years, you can't call me and tell me how great everything is going for you. Not that everything is perfect, but hey, I got this job with AT&T. I met a girl, we married her, we got a kid, and that's my job, is to make sure that I put you in a situation to be successful. If I just care about wins and losses in basketball, and I ignore or neglect other issues I see that I could help you with, then I'm setting you up for failure. And so that's what I tell every kid in the recruiting process is, I'm going to do my darndest to make you a great basketball player, a champion in the classroom, but also a champion in life.
Yeah. It's crazy. My mentor coach, Coach Willie Patrick, he coaches out in Houston. He was the head coach at Wheatley High School in Houston a couple of years ago. He's been with Jack Yates High School for, I think, the past 2 or 3 years. But that was one of his favorite sayings. my job is to put you in a position to be successful, not only on the basketball court, but also in life. And I was older then, but he was speaking to the kids, the high school kids, but he was also speaking to me. But I kind of carry that with me all the time. And you seem like you're on the right track with everything. And I believe you said that you come from a basketball family.
Mm-hmm.
But as usual, you got to kind of separate your life from coaching life, and it's very hard to do. But what are your interests outside of coaching for those that don't really know who you are?
Yeah, that's a hard question for a young guy,
Mm-hmm.
Coach, because you grind so hard.
Mm-hmm.
Again, coming from Coach Davis, he really preached it. The harder you work, the luckier you are, the more successful you have. And so I really am a basketball dude. I mean, I really,
Mm-hmm.
really am. I spend 95% of my time with the game. And so, but I do have, some interest outside of coaching, and I think it's important to try to find a little bit of a balance to keep you even keel. I'm a big Netflix guy. I'm
Mm-hmm.
probably terrible about it, but I binge watch things all the time. Just things that have nothing to do with basketball at all. If I start getting interested, I'll just watch the whole deal, and I don't really know how to stop. I'll go golf a little bit too. Again, just the competitor in me tries to keep competing. I like to play cards.
Mm-hmm.
Something that my teammates did a lot when I was in college is we played a lot of spades, a lot of tonk. So I still play a lot of card games today. Again, feeding into that competitiveness that I try to. I don't necessarily try to have all the time, but it's just kind of who I am. And so those are things I'll do. Like I said, a big movie guy, a Netflix guy. And then at the same time, I like to play lots of cards and I'll go golf. Not really a hunter. I don't really care about that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I can fish a little, but not much. It's more of I kind of hang out around the house and do things like that when I'm not in the office doing basketball.
Yeah, it's hard. Any coach, but I think basketball coaches kind of just live, sleep, and dream about it, about basketball all the time. For me, it's really hard for me to not be busy at this time because usually I'm doing refereeing AAU games or I'm coaching AAU games, and I made a decision last week to kind of just stop it. I had a friend that came down with this situation, and I made a decision to just back out of it. But it's really hard for me to sit still. If you grow up loving basketball, like I believe you do and I do, it's just really hard to sit still. Um, but I love seeing kids finding new ways to work out,
Mm-hmm.
to take care of their time, spend more time with their family, little brother, little sister, whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
But I still try to communicate with kids.
Yeah.
What, in your years of coaching, what has been your biggest joy, or what do you hope that players take away from you once they leave your tutelage?
Yeah, so that's another great question, Coach. And first off, I'd like to touch on what you said. I love to see guys outside.
Yeah.
You never saw everybody has a gym, and there's nothing wrong with that. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
but it's so awesome to drive by in parks. There's kids playing in parks. There's kids outside. People are buying goals at Walmart or
Mm-hmm.
or Academy, and that's awesome because that's how I play the game. And I don't know about
Absolutely.
but I had a basketball goal in my driveway, and my whole neighborhood played every day after school. We played every day, and so that part's awesome. The most satisfying thing, the thing I get the most joy about from my guys, and I've been really fortunate now. I state that to start with is going through a course of a season, the struggle, the ups and downs, and watching those guys have success at the end and
Mm-hmm.
meet the goal they set up for them. Again, I've been really, really fortunate. Now, I've been a part of 7 championship teams in my 11 years, player and coach,
Wow.
running them. I've been incredibly unfortunate, and then I hope it continues. I doubt it will at that same percentage, but watching guys like Reggie Upshaw, like I went back when we talked to him initially in the interview, who struggled the year after my class graduated in that 1917 year. They weren't holding the standard, and to watch him beat Michigan State in the NCAA tournament, and then the next year they beat Minnesota, and now
Mm-hmm.
he's over playing in the biggest leagues in Europe. But just watching guys like that, Giddy Potts, the same thing. A guy from Athens, Alabama, about an hour and a half from Murfreesboro. He went home every single weekend as a freshman that he could because he was so homesick. And now he's played in Korea, I think, the last couple of years. And just watching guys overcome things and go through the struggles, the trials, the tribulations, and ultimately get their goal. And I've been fortunate enough to watch a lot of guys do that. And I just think it's awesome. I truly think that it's just so cool. And I get so much satisfaction on watching guys achieve their goals, making all-league teams, winning championships, going to play professional basketball. That's awesome. The one thing I hope they take from me is, again, has nothing to do with basketball. I hope they take the fact that they know they have a lifelong friend, mentor in Coach Gibson. That's what I hope they say. I hope they don't talk about he helped me be a better shooter, work on my ball handling. I hope when they leave, I hope they say, you know what, Coach was as fair, as honest, and literally poured everything he could into me. And because of that, I have a lifelong friend or a lifelong mentor that I know I can call at any point and have real conversations with about anything, or just call because I care about him and he cares about me. And so those are the things I truly hope that they take away when they leave my program, when they leave playing underneath me, or even former teammates. I hope it's the exact same way all the way around, which is so unique about this game. You know, it's a game about winning, and I want to win so bad, but I really value those relationships that much more.
Yeah, that's awesome that you say that. I remember my dad getting a call from my coach and saying that that I was a better young man than I was a basketball player, and that's just the biggest compliment that that my dad could ever got, and he still carries that to this day. And I'm pretty sure you have had coaches say that about you to your parents, man. And I truly believe that you're going to be a great coach, great head coach. You're on the way. People look up Western New Mexico University. I got a couple more questions. Basketball in general, I know it's changing. Everybody wants to shoot threes, the bigs, the fives, the fours. A lot of dribbling going on, and then there's a lot of motion. You know, I'm a guy that, like when I do training, I'm a guy that likes to teach a lot out of triple threat. I'm not a big dribbling type person, but for you, any changes would you like to see in basketball in general from any level?
You know, it's a great question. Well, you know what you're doing on this thing, man. You hit questions now. You know, I think. Well, and this goes back to me being a basketball dude. I really love watching those European teams play because they're so skilled and they move so well without the ball and they make such great decisions. That is one of my favorite versions of the game to watch. Because they're the best of the best. You know, not the NBA guys, but they're the next guys below them, and they're extremely talented. But yet they continue to move and move the ball. And so, you know, from a college standpoint, I love the game. I love the college game. I wish that. I guess the only thing I wish they do is continue. You know, they backed up the 3-point line, which I'm a big fan of. I want them to bring in the goaltend rule from Europe, where the ball hits the rim, you can knock it off, because I think it makes it simpler, and there's not the judgment call on the referee for is it goaltending or not. You know, the offensive guy, if I shoot it and the ball hits the rim and you go dunk it, even though it's above the rim, it counts. There's no guessing for the official, and so. You know, I wish that would probably be one rule I'd bring in. The other thing is I would really love them, and I know this is hard because this is a money thing and it adds another official to the floor. I wish they had a guy who sat with the monitor, and if they went into the replay review, that guy made the decision and he made it. He had 30 seconds to make it, and that's it. I really don't like when we go to the reviews and they're 4, 5, 6, 7 minutes. They're trying to figure out something. And the first 3 minutes were just because they're turning the TV around and they're trying to figure out how to work the replay. Like, that just drives me nuts. It's a game. Basketball is such a game of rhythm. And the best part about the game is when it's going back and forth. The guys are making big shots with big plays, and no offense to the officials, which 98% of coaches are not huge fans of. No offense to them, but I don't want the game taken up by watching them watch a replay. The guys doing the game on the broadcast can tell you in 20 seconds who the ball's off on, or is it a 3 or not a 3, or is he in the restricted area? They can do that really fast. So if we just had one guy over there sitting there and they want to review something real quick, he can make the call. We can move forward. So I guess those would be a couple of things basketball-wise. In the high school ranks, I'd love everybody to have a shot clock.
Thank you.
I think that would be awesome.
Thank you.
And I don't like to use this because I guess in a sense we're the minor leagues for the NBA, but I don't want to drive 3 hours and watch a team stall the ball out top.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. I want to watch guys play. And I know it's not about me, but I think that will increase the enjoyment of basketball. We're growing at a rate that's awesome right now globally. Let's continue to grow. Why not be the number one sport in the world if we can make some subtle adjustments? So I would love a shot clock in high school basketball. I would love them to match us for the three-point line because I think that will bring in guys that will shoot it better when they first get here. We talked about speed of the game. Backing up a foot or two now because we're doing the new line.
Makes a difference.
It's different. It is different. And it's amazing just those 2 feet, what it can do to a shot. So I kind of went everywhere there. But I guess
you're good.
for college, again, it would be the goaltending rule from the FIBA stuff and the speed of replay. For high school, it would be shot clock. I love the NBA game. I don't know what you can do. The best players in the world are the best players in the world, and those guys are way smarter than me. I just hope they all get down to Orlando and have a fantastic end of their season.
Listening to your changes that you want to see, and for me, have you guys got into the challenge rule? Like the NBA tried to do that a couple of years ago, maybe last year. I don't know. In the what is it called? The minor leagues for the NBA. I can't even think of the name right now. But the G League. So are there talks about that, like the coaches challenge for college coaches?
With all the COVID stuff going on, there's not been really any talk as far as rules, and that's where administrators and league commissioners, their heads are so focused on the COVID task that there's not really been a lot of talk as far as changing. I do not want to see the challenge. Coach, they said, Coach, you can have all the replay or no replay. What would you pick? I'd pick no replay. I really would. And again, it goes back to flow, rhythm of the game. Yes, are officials going to make mistakes? Yes, they're going to make mistakes. But I also just like this. If I don't have any timeout and your team and my team are playing each other and they knock the ball off and they got to go do a review, well, then I get an additional timeout. So I think that creates unfair advantages at the end of games for guys who maybe didn't spread or value their timeouts enough during the game. And so I just don't like the replay. I know it's crazy because I'm a young guy. Young guys love technology, and I do, but I don't like the replay part of the technology. I'd rather them do away with all of it than have more of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally understand. You've been at Middle Tennessee, then you went to Arkansas Smith, I believe, and then you went to UTPB. You said, we talked before we got on that you were married. How does your wife deal with that? Just kind of being all over the place, man. That's a lot of traveling.
I guess the joke would be kicking and screaming right now. She's awesome. She's a rock star. She is the best thing that's happened to me ever. She's fortunate that she works for actually a company out of Nashville, but they let her work remotely. Now, sadly, we're all working remotely. But she's kind of been doing it the last 4 or 5 years since we started moving around the country, where she basically will get on an airplane and go to her projects, where she has projects throughout the country, and she'll go do those on site. And then instead of being in office in Nashville like she normally was, we have a spare bedroom everywhere we go where she just turns it into an office. So we've got the dual computer screens. the desk, the whole 9 yards in there. And she's great now. Her brother played at Kentucky actually, so she grew up in a basketball family, which probably really helps me because it's not like when we move, her parents are like, "What are you moving?" Anything like that. They understand a little bit of the game because they had a son play at Kentucky, and so she's been absolutely great. And I love the fact that more so now than in the past, because obviously I'm the head coach now. She'll be such a big part of my guys' lives too. She's funny because she'll go follow the coach's wives on Instagram. Like Coach Cal's wife does cookies or brownies or whatever the favorite dessert is for a player each birthday. She's like, I'm doing that. So she told me I need every kid's birthday on your team because I'm going to make them their favorite dessert on their birthday. And she's all about that type of stuff. And so she is all in, and it just makes my life and my job truly so much easier because I have such a supportive partner in this deal.
That's awesome. It's funny that you say that. My college coach's wife, Mrs. Casper, man, after every home game, every section, this lady will make cookies for everybody. Win, lose, or draw.
Yep.
Yep. And we had games. We lost some home games, and then you're doing a school song at the end of the game, and you're just like, man, coach's wife's cookies up there. You see kids still sprinting up the hall, sprinting up from the court, trying to get to the cookies, man. Even though you lost, you kind of take a step back, like, okay, let me enjoy this moment. And so that your wife is going to do that, man, that's incredible. So we're gonna get ready to get out of here. And my last question I've asked every coach. You're a little younger than me, but for me, Kobe Bryant. What were your thoughts, just from a basketball standpoint? That news that happened in January of this year.
Absolutely tragic. Absolutely tragic. I told my guys are, LeBron guys. There's nothing wrong with that. LeBron James is, if not the greatest player ever, the second greatest player ever, depending on who you're talking to.
Absolutely.
And so they're all LeBron guys. Well, I was a Kobe guy. The era in which I grew up was when he was winning all these championships and he was the best player in the league. And so absolutely tragic from the fact that what we lost and obviously personally, being one of your idols growing up, but what we lost because Kobe was not done.
No.
Some guys, and this is not an issue. Hey, if you go play professional athletics and you make enough money where you can sit at home by the pool all day long, have at it, man. You deserve it. But Kobe wasn't one of those guys. He wasn't. I truly believe with his daughters, what women's basketball is going to miss out on is truly tragic. And what he was going to do for them, in my opinion, would far have eclipsed even what he did as a player.
Absolutely.
His Mamba Sports Academy out there, all the girls that he was getting involved, the fact that he was an advocate for the WNBA, just you don't get guys like that very much. He was very rare. And so in just a simple term, it's just one of the most tragic things. They talk about you remember where you were at when certain things occur. I don't think I'll ever forget where I was when I got the news about Kobe passing away. And like I said, what compounds it is the fact that his daughter and those other young girls that were going to practice or game, I can't remember, were in there with him. My wife cried for like a week and a half straight, and because it's just such you lost a legend in Kobe, but then you just think about the purity of the young ladies who also passed away, and just the hurt that comes from that. So truly tragic for a guy who grew up loving Kobe Bryant. I wore his shoes the next week in honor of him. I had some Kobe's, wore them. But truly tragic, and like I said, what's worse is that I think that women's athletics and women's basketball in particular truly lost an advocate that I think would have continued to push forward their game to new levels.
Yeah, it's 2020 has been a year for the record books, I guess you can say. And it started with Kobe. And like you said, I'll never forget where I was. I was getting ready for AAU practice, and then it just kind of hit. But even with that being said, Coach Zane, I believe that you guys at Western New Mexico is off to a great start. I believe you're going to be a tremendous head coach. Um, just hearing you talk, I met you. This is the first time interaction that we had besides texting, and I think you're going to be great, man. I appreciate you coming on, and anything that you want to say to the people that's still here, let them know.
Oh, well, first off, Will, I want to thank you. I love you helped me, and what I mean by that is you talked about it. There's a shortage in basketball, and I'm so fired up that TBT is going getting
Yeah.
going right now. But there's a shortage, and guys like myself who have such a passion of the game, we're missing something right now. We really are. And to be able to come on with you and talk about the game and talk about my program and some things that I've been fortunate enough to be a part of is awesome. It really is. To anybody listening. The one thing I would tell you guys is just always be hopeful. I know that 2020 has been rough. It's been rough on a lot of people, but don't ever give up. And I know that's the cliche from Jimmy V, but don't don't give in. Don't get too down. Just believe that things are going to get better if we do the right things. And not to be political, but wearing masks and stuff like that. If we'll do the right things, this thing will turn around, and we'll come out of this and be okay. But just don't let yourself get to a bad point. That'd be what I would tell everybody: is remain positive, keep doing everything in your power to remain positive, and we're gonna be okay. At some point, I don't know when. I wish I could give everybody a date. Say January 1, we're good. I don't know when that's going to be, but we will be at some point, and business will get back to normal. So, but thank you again, Will, for having me. Really enjoyed it, man. You ever want to talk more ball, man? You know where to get me, and I'll jump right back on. But I really appreciate you, and I appreciate everybody who listened.
Okay, appreciate it, man. For those that are still here, man, peace out. Until next time, see you guys later.
See you guys.